The thing with vaccine preventable diseases for children, including polio, is that the child has no say. The child is unable to say, I want or I don't want. It is some adult that is taking that decision. And for every child I see infected by polio, what strikes me in my heart is one adult or a few adults have failed this child.
Wow.
And we shouldn't fail any child.
Good morning, everyone. This is What's Your IQ? Tell us about your impact quotient with Nancy Barbee. And I'm telling you, it is an honor for me today to have Rotary International President Yinka Babalola with me this morning. And his resume is so long, it'll take half the podcast to read that. But I did want to mention several things: that he was a past director, Rotary International director, past vice president. His course this year, he's serving as the international president. He, which is near and dear to my heart, has served in many capacities in Rotary, but in polio now coordinator. And that's what we're going to be talking a lot about today is polio and how it affected him and his role in the polio eradication efforts. So, President Yinka, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you, Nancy. Good afternoon to you from Nigeria.
Yes. So nice to have you with me. Good morning here from the United States. Let's talk about Nigeria just a little bit. You know, it went from being one of the world's most challenging places for polio eradication to being declared free of polio virus several years ago. And you're from Nigeria, and I know you were a driving force behind the polio eradication effort, but what does that achievement mean to you personally? And what lessons do you think we can learn from that effort and becoming polio free?
Thank you, Nancy. You know, sometimes we just say a country is polio free, or say we've had only 12 cases, 14 cases like we've had as at July this year. People think of it as just numbers. But you know, being here in one of the countries in Africa that was last certified wide polio free, those are not numbers for me. And those are not stories either. They are things that I saw. And allow me to tell you a story if your time will allow it. You know, many years back, my Rotary Club of Transamadi, used to visit a home run by some missionaries. And we visit every Christmas just to go spend time with those children, you know, in the home. The home was established mainly to look after children who got crippled by polio and some other paralyzing diseases, you know, who got crippled by that and whose parents have difficulty looking after them. You know, it's a tough thing to have to deal with a child that is paralyzed, you know. But what then happened was the polio eradication started, and then my part of the country hadn't seen polio in a long while. One of those Christmas, we went to the place and we started noticing that we were not seeing children with paralysis anymore, you know, because traditionally what happens when the children, when they get to high school, they go to college and they leave the home. So, but each time you come every year, you meet some young children and the managers will introduce them to us. Since you came last year, this is our new intakes, you know, and then the new intake stopped. And then the old intakes graduated and left. And they had to repurpose that facility for other things. So for me, it isn't just story. It's something I saw, I witnessed, let me put it that way. And of course, the northern part of Nigeria, the northeastern part of Nigeria was our last bastion of polio, you know. And I took a lot of effort, you know, being part of that also. I was there helping the immunizers as they go door to door. Rotary in particular was very useful, you know, in helping to resolve non-compliances. So yes, there are a lot of lessons that could be learned. One is that, first is that the community trusts us. So there's an element of trust that is required. Because you see, to ask a mother to bring the child, open the mouth, and you drop something she doesn't know in the mouth, that's a lot of trust. And the community trusts us. They trust us from many things we've done together before. And the government were also very critical because there was a lot of access issues access issues in those places because of insecurity, the militancy, the terrorism, as we called it. But despite all of that, we had to do several things to make sure we can reach as many children as possible. Yes, it simply means that when partners work together, anything is achievable.
Absolutely. The word trust comes up quite a few times in our work and in any aspect of our work. It does mean a lot when you have a Rotary vest on or a Rotary shirt. People understand that. We've done a good job in some areas making sure that people know what Rotary is and what Rotary does. So I love the word trust. I mean, that says it all. That says it all. So, you mentioned about going to and seeing families, and people forget about how it affects a family. It affects the child that contracts polio, but it also affects a family. Do you have any one particular story that you might tell about how you saw families dealing with that, and or something that really touched your heart?
Let me, and I don't know, it will be, I think it will be relevant. I remembered going out because during the National Immunization Days, naturally, Rotarians go out to support the immunization efforts. And as a Rotary leader from Nigeria, I wanted to demonstrate that visibility by showing up myself. And I remembered one case where the chief refused the vaccinators to come in and immunize the children.
Wow.
Why? He had these grievances. It was like, you guys promised us water. You still haven't brought us water. You promised us a school. You haven't brought us the school. But every month, every 3 months, he will come and ask us to take this polio vaccine. We don't want your polio vaccine anymore.
Wow.
That was brought to my attention, and I had to go there and let the man understand, well, we are not government. We were not the ones who promised you water. We were not the ones who promised you school. But we are offering you something to make your child healthy. And I asked the gentleman, do you know the consequence if polio affects your child? He said, yes. That they said the child will get paralyzed. And I said, good. So let's think about it this way. Where do you get water from currently? We know you've asked for water you've not been given. Where do you get water from currently? He told me somewhere far away, children have to get up in the morning, go get the water. I said, okay, good. Where do the children go to school currently? Somewhere far away, it's a long distance, sometimes we need to take them with bicycles. Then I asked him, isn't that difficult enough already? That if your child is paralyzed, who is going to go fetch that water for you? And do you have the capacity to carry a paralyzed child on your back to go to school? The gentleman looked at me, uttered some swear words, and then invited the immunizers to come in. And I think the picture I believe I painted for him was to see that even in the midst of everything else, the things he may be suffering from in terms of deprivations and infrastructure deficiency, what he will want to do, what he would not like to do, is to add a paralyzed child onto that problem. And I think most people understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Boy, you made it very clear to him. I think you made it very clear to him and to all of us that it's all about the child, and it's all about people having to deal with paralysis that is not necessary because it's preventable. Yeah. So 100%.
Yeah. Preventable, we know what to do, we know how to fix it, it's preventable. And Nancy, let me say this. I know it's not directly related to a question you asked. People sometimes ask me, why do you do this? Why do you even go to dangerous areas? You don't have a child below the age of 5 anymore. Like any other thing else, Nancy, the thing with vaccine preventable diseases for children, including polio, is that the child has no say. The child is unable to say, I want or I don't want. It is some adult that is taking that decision. And for every child I see infected by polio, what strikes me in my heart is one adult or a few adults have failed this child.
Wow.
And we shouldn't fail any child.
That's powerful. That's powerful. And that's true. We all play a part in that. Wow. Yeah. So we're hearing little rumblings still that there's some cases that have popped up in Nigeria. Are there still cases there? What's being done about that? What preventive measures are being taken now? Can you talk a little bit about that?
We've not had any wild polio case in Nigeria since certification in 2020-2021. There has been no wild polio case. There has been what they call variants, which comes from, should I say, low routine immunization. But you see, even for the variants, it has the capacity to paralyze a child.
True.
You know, so for us, we treat it the same way. And anytime you have a variant polio detected, we deploy the response mechanism, which is to immunize children in the area where the case was found, or even in some cases, Nancy, we did not see a child in particular, but it was found in environmental samples, And once that is done, we do what we call outbreak response, OBR. That's the technical word they use, outbreak response, and immunize all the children in all the contiguous cities and local governments to make sure that that is contained. And most times, once we do that, it is contained. So again, like we said, we know what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I get questions a lot of. Well, it's been eradicated. Why do we continue? That's the very reason why, because of there are dangers of being outbreaks and the dangers of being new children being paralyzed. So yeah, we need to continue that and continue to immunize children because a lot of children are still being born. So we got to make sure those children are.
And Nancy, when I ask Rotarians to donate to polio, and they ask me that question, but I thought you said we have eradicated it in Africa, or we don't have wild polio anymore. Why are you still asking us to contribute money? And I tell them, the children that have been born need to be immunized.
Absolutely.
Because until the last child is reached anywhere in the world, every child is not safe. No child is safe. And I tell them, yes, you did give us some $10,000 4 years ago. You did give us some $20,000 5 years ago. You did give us some $1,000, 500, whatever you gave to us even 4 months ago. That money is gone. It's spent because children were born yesterday. And we have the zero dose that must be applied to them. So bring this money. Continue to help until we get it done.
Absolutely. And I tell you, we're right at the end of eradication. I mean, it's 99% polio free, but everyone says, which is true, that the last mile is the hardest. And if you could offer the hope that we can finally eradicate polio, are you hopeful that we're going to finally eradicate polio? And if so, what would you like to say to Rotarians? What is their role in that they need to play in this polio eradication effort? Because it's all about all of us together.
Yes, Nancy, we will eradicate polio. I have no doubt in my mind that we will eradicate polio. The evidence before us is also clear that this we shall achieve. But we are not done yet. You see, you said 99.9%. Yes, but there's a 0.1% that is still left. We need to fix that. And it will happen. And I say this, Nancy, it will happen in our lifetime. For me, it's not a matter of will it? No, we will. It's just a matter of time. We sure will eradicate polio. But we need everybody to remain focused. We as Rotarians, whose roles, in fact, who brought together the coalition, the Global Polio Eradication Initiative Coalition in the first place, who brought them together, that we need to remain focused. Our partners need to remain focused. In fact, this morning I had a chat with another group of Rotarians, and we're talking about the same thing. And I said to them, in fact, I remember we're doing the virtual launch of the Kick Polio Out of Africa because the Women Football Championship is about to start. We have women soccer players, champions who are advocating for polio. And I told them that for those of them, for people who watch the World Cup, you will know that it is not over until the last whistle is blown. Those who thought it was over because they were 99.9% of the time for the soccer, they saw the consequence. So we need to remain vigilant. We cannot afford to get fatigued. Let me use that word. For Rotary, our roles are clear. We shall do the advocacy at all levels. governments, partners, community. We shall fundraise, we shall help create awareness. Those are critical things for us to do, and we must continue to do them. And if you allow me to put it this way, think of the history of polio being in a book that is being written. I can tell you for certain, Nancy, we are on the last chapter of that book. And those who want to be part of history, this is the time for them to enlist if they haven't before. Because polio will remain at the end of the day either a story in a book or a sample in the laboratory. We will have finished the job. Please join if you've not been part of it.
Absolutely.
Join by advocating, by helping to fundraise and contribute, by showing up, to create awareness. Join in the field to participate in some immunization activities. Help us offer alternative voices to those who are campaigning against vaccines, because my experience shows that vaccines work.
Yeah, absolutely. But we have so many younger members now, especially new Rotarians, but younger members in Rotaract and that are joining that have no experience with polio. Actually, I had no experience with polio until I joined Rotary. I mean, I learned after I joined Rotary that there were people in my community, people in my family that had polio that I had no idea, because people didn't talk about that. So, advocacy is very important. But how do we get that message across to younger people and newer Rotarians that have never been involved in polio, have never seen cases, have no idea what it can do? How do we talk to them about it? What do we say?
I think, Nancy, first we need to let them understand, because like this year, my presidential message is to create lasting impact. I'm sure even the new Rotarians will have had that message, to create lasting impact. There is no better manifestation of lasting impact than eradication of polio. Let these people know that the organization they belong to, is trying to eradicate a disease, leading an effort to eradicate a disease. And it will be the second to be so done by the time we're done in the history of humanity. That is something big. And that is something any Rotarian should be willing to be part of. The second thing is that question I tell you people ask me, Yinka, polio affects children below the age of 5 mostly. You don't have any child below the age of 5. Why are you exposing yourself to risk and danger? And I said to them, I don't. But you see, I worried about polio. I got my children immunized. I don't want my children to worry about polio for their own children. By the time my grandchildren come, I want to deliver to them a polio-free world. So many of the young people that we see today who are in Rotary, who were not even born when we started the campaign in 1986, 88 or something like that, they are not immune either.
Yes.
Because like we said, until the last child is reached, no child is safe anywhere. And there have been evidences of that. A few years back, we found it in New York. A few years back, we found it in London. They've not had a case for years, Recently, we found it even in Israel, So it shows that polio is just a plane ride away.
That's right.
And this world is so interconnected. We need to keep on immunizing our children.
Absolutely. I love the way you put it, that you want the future of humanity not need to have to worry about polio. There's probably going to be a lot of other things to worry about, but polio doesn't need to be one of them.
There are many things to worry about, actually. And some of them we actually don't have solutions to yet. You know what I mean? We don't have like a cure. We don't have the tools to eliminate it. But for polio, we do.
Yes.
We have the tools. We have the expertise. We have the knowledge. We have everything we need. All that is left is for us as adults, leaders, to step forward and do those things we know are required.
Right, absolutely. A lot of people ask, okay, after polio is eradicated, and I think everybody believes it now that it will be eradicated. We're getting closer and closer and closer. Only 10 cases this year so far. That's a miracle in itself. But everybody's asking, okay, what's next? Is Rotary going to jump on the bandwagon for another cause? Or are we going to Or what do you think? Do you know? Has there been any discussions been going on about it, or what would you project?
There are discussions that have been going on about it, but Rotary's position is very, very clear. We are not embarking on any corporate initiative until we are done with polio.
So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, I suppose.
Yes. But in preparing for that bridge, frameworks have been developed to say when we get to that bridge, this is what we will use in determining what next we are going to do. Whether that means another corporate program, whether that means it will be regional, several initiatives, but at the regional level, whatever that will come up with, that we will deal with it when we get to that point. But for now, no distractions. Polio we will eradicate.
Absolutely. So let's look ahead 10 to 20 years from now. And, of course, we're going to be known for polio eradication, I know. But what changes do you believe that are essential for Rotary to remain relevant and attractive to the next generation of leaders? What do we need to do to make sure that we're following in the footsteps of Paul Harris and making sure that we're being relevant? What do we need to do?
And Nancy, in today's world in particular, where loneliness, somebody said it's an epidemic, another person said it's actually more than an epidemic, it's a pandemic. There's so much loneliness.
Yeah.
In this world, yes, we can reach it faster, but we are not connected, if you understand what I mean. Rotary provides an opportunity, for people to get connected, to feel each other, and help with everybody's mental health. Let me use that. So there's a value of Rotary that we seem not to be communicating properly. And I think we need to be able to do that. You may have heard me say this, Nancy. When people ask us about Rotary, a lot of times we tell them about what we do for others. What we do in this community, with the impact we are creating here among young people. But we seldom talk about how Rotary transforms us. Every Rotarian, most Rotarians have engaged with, have a story to tell. I'm sure you have your own story, Nancy, on the opportunity this organization gave you that changed your life for good. We need to be able to tell those stories more. Because when we tell them, then people see the value proposition for Rotary. The example I give is if you meet a 30-year-old young engineer and he asks you, what is Rotary? And so we do this for our communities, we help improve our environment. He'll probably tell you, that's nice. Let me go work harder, make some money. Maybe 20 years from now, I will come back and join Rotary and help you make this environment better. But you see, Nancy, Rotary is a life-changing experience. Rotary is transformative, you see. And as our vision statement says, it's that together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. But you see, Rotarians can explain the lasting change in the communities, but ask them, what of the lasting change in ourselves? They always say, yes, it has, Rotary changed me, but how? What story do you have to tell? That story, we need to find it out, each of us, and tell it more. Because if you ask that 30-year-old, would you like an opportunity to create a lasting impact, a lasting change in yourself? I'm not sure the young man will tell you, no, not yet. Let's wait for 20 more years before that change happens. That won't be his response, I can tell. And if it's a 70-year-old retired doctor you asked, he's not going to say, no, I've had enough change in my life. I don't want any more. So that is a conversation. We need to get that out because there is something in Rotary for everybody, for people of all generations. There is value in Rotary, whether you are young or you are old. And our involvement with young people is something we also need to intensify and connect the dot, like I will always say. It's like, again, let me use soccer, the World Cup just finished.
Right.
You hear people talk about the Spanish team, that most of the players that won the World Cup for the coach, were players that he had coached at the age group tournaments, like at under 17, under 19, under 21. You know, he had coached them at that level, and they are now at the world stage, and they won the World Cup. In our own case, we have the Youth Exchange, we have RILA, we have Rotaract, you know, we have Interact, but who is our coach? You know, we take those people in and we let them out into the world without asking, where are you? Nobody makes that kind of investment and leave it to waste. We must find a smart way of recouping in our investment in the young generation. Rotary found me very early. I'm very proud of that. I was a Rotaract-era. They found me early. You know, they gave me the opportunity to learn that giving young people real responsibility opens them up to a greater path for leadership and citizenship. Ever before they have a need, you know, to even aspire politically or aspire to leadership in the full sense of it, you know. But we cannot do those investments and not decide how we are going to recoup it. And that has been my message. I think Rotary is relevant today as it was years back. Rotary will be relevant in future. The way we do it will change. For example, the way we communicate will change. You know, obviously. I mean, in the days of Polaris, I mean, it took like 4 months or 5 months for a charter certificate to arrive. Today, it's a press of the button. The charter certificate is in your inbox. A new club is chartered. The same thing. We are communicating at the speed of, I don't want to say light, because there may be something faster than that now. So the methodology will change, but our core values will remain. And Nancy, in all the evidences I have seen, all the surveys I have seen, I've not heard of anybody, no matter the age group, that has said, no, Yinka, you know, your core value of leadership is the one I don't like. Your core value of integrity is the one I don't like. Because our 5 core values, you know, friendship and fellowship, leadership, integrity, diversity, service. Those core values, people do not disagree with them. So to make sure 20 years from now, 50 years from now, Rotary is thriving, we need to find a way of connecting people to those Rotary values and delivering what we call the Rotary promise when they show up at our doors.
Wow. Great message. Great message. So I have to ask you, you know, you said Rotary found you early, you were a Rotaractor, but what was your aha moment? Like, this is bigger than I expected and there's more to it than I knew. Did you have one of those moments that all of a sudden, or there are a lot of them?
Of course, there are several. You know, I've been part of this organization for over 4 decades. So, and if you're engaged, if you're involved, you will have several aha moments. You know, let me give you a story I've told many times. My club was going to have what we call an adult literacy project. You know, it is titled Adult Literacy Project. I was looking forward to seeing older people much older than me, perhaps the age of my parents, who missed the opportunity to go to school, and they will want to help them, you know. But I was shocked to find out that there were people my age. You know, I had privileged education, you know, and it was even free in the part of the country I lived in. So up to that moment, I never believed. I wouldn't have believed, if not for Rotary, I wouldn't have believed that there were people of my age then who couldn't read or write. That's number one. Number two then is we started the program, and then after a while, I saw a woman actually write her own name on a piece of paper for the first time. You know what that did to me? I was a young man with a lot of opportunities, properly educated, privileged. That changed me. I was no longer that man, that young man with a lot of opportunities. I transformed into the young man with the responsibility to create that opportunity for other people. That is transformatory.
Wow, that touches my heart. And that's the truth. That's what every one of us have an opportunity to change someone's life and change the direction that someone takes. I
Yes.
mean, That's amazing. That's amazing.
Nancy, I think it was a past president, Button, who once used that phrase that each time we go out to change other people's lives, our own lives get changed.
Absolutely.
Because when I went for that project, I was simply going to help older people know how to read and write. My intention was to go out there and change people's lives. But it was my own life that got changed instead.
Absolutely. 100%. I understand that phrase. I understand that feeling too. So, Yinka, when history looks back on your year as Rotary International President, what impact do you hope people will say that you made, not just for Rotary, but for the world? What do you want your impact to be, your legacy to be?
Nancy, two fronts. I'm working hard. I'm having the communications to make sure we're able to grow this organization. Because we talk about lasting impact on us. Because we talk about lasting impact on the communities, on our world. The lasting impact on our world will be that we got polio eradicated, that I sustained the effort and kept the communication going that made polio to come to zero. And we can look back and say, yes, we went as low as this or even as far as zero this year. That's lasting impact across the world. Peace work. As Rotarians, everything we do is tied to peace. Is aimed at helping make the environment, the communities, our world more peaceful. And even in the middle of conflict, the support we provide in terms of humanitarian service, to those who are victims of conflict, also make things more peaceful. We're hoping that because we are no longer looking at just the outcomes of the things that we do, that we are thinking a little harder about the impact, the lasting impact, that some of the things we do that we know how to do will deliver better results and better impact on our world. For Rotary is that if Rotary is going to be here 50 years from now, there are a few things that are clear we must do. We must bring in new people. And I'm not saying necessarily young people. Everybody. We must bring in new people into the organization because a new member is not just a number. A new member is an asset, a new advocate, a new fundraiser, somebody with some skills that we currently may not have. But until they come in, we won't know, So it's not about numbers. It's also about the people that will help this organization thrive with new skill set, whether that is technology, whether that is just behavioral, So we need to bring them in. We need to create more clubs. We need to expand our reach because there are still many parts of our world that we don't have Rotary present. Nancy, I say it to people who care to listen. Sometimes I force it into the ears of those who don't want to say anywhere Rotary goes, good things follow. And any community without a Rotary club is suffering. So I'm hoping also with a 1.25 million by our 125th anniversary in 2030 campaign, which I have, working with the board, resourced, put a plan in place to get us to that point, that we achieve that result, and we could see that, yes, this was the year when our decline stopped, and our Rotary started to grow again. And that will be lasting impact for this organization. On the soft side, Nancy, I want to use the concept of Rotary transforming us to create an emotional connection between Rotarians and Rotary. When people connect emotionally, they will do anything in the interest of the organization. When the connection is transactional, it become touch and go. Rotarians used to be very strongly connected emotionally with Rotary, but I don't know at what point we lost it. And I'm hoping that if every Rotarian can tell the story of how Rotary has changed them, that emotional reconnection will happen, and they will have the emotional energy to go out, tell those stories, even when it's about vulnerable moments. Tell that story, and help use that to inspire other people.
Wow. Yinka, you hitting the nail on the head. But when I joined Rotary, I'm from a very small rural area. I knew that Rotary was a nice thing. I knew all the people in the club. We sold raffle tickets and ate breakfast on Wednesday mornings. I thought it was great. I had a great time. But the Rotary opened up doors of opportunities for me. I became president of the club. I'm president again of my club again for the 7th time. But when I went to the first event that was beyond my club and saw how powerful and how it stretched across continents that I had no idea. I went to PETS, and the first person I met outside of my area was Jonathan Maggiami. He was the incoming president at that time, and I'm sure you knew him very well.
Very, very well, yes.
I met him for the first time, and that's when my eyes were opened to this is a little bit bigger than I thought. So anyway, and since that time, it's been my blessing to have Rotary open a lot of doors of opportunity for me. So I understand where you're coming from. It is emotional. And when you hit that, when you touch someone's heart and when you become emotional, then Rotary will continue. Rotary will grow. I mean, we've lasted a long time. We'll be here until the world is.
Yeah. And again, I like to quote past leaders. I think it was Olga Kanak who also said, Rotary isn't just a club that you join. It is an invitation to endless opportunities. To sit in a rural place or in a small part of the world and discover that you have a connection across the whole world, continent, cities, time zones. Sometimes on the soft side, Nancy, there are things that hit me once in a while. On one occasion, something happened in Nigeria. I was getting text messages, WhatsApp messages, phone calls from almost every continent on this planet. People asking me, Yinka, are you okay? Just imagine me, Yinka, from one city in Nigeria. The incident is even so remote that until they started calling me, even me didn't know anything had happened. You know what I mean? So it's like when I said, what is happening? Then I checked the news and then I found out something happened 2,000 kilometers away from me. There's a message you get. Number one, I'm not alone. Number two, I'm part of something bigger than me. And like I tend to advocate and sell Rotary sometimes, I tell people, you all have 10 fingers. And doing things with your 10 fingers has limitations. If you aspire, you desire the capacity to do much more than your 10 fingers can achieve. Rotary is for you, but there are so many other 10 fingers that you can tap yours into and achieve something bigger, much bigger than you.
Wow. This has been a wonderful conversation. I've heard your message in the past, but it really resonates with me today. And I can't thank you enough because you've had an impact on me, and I know that you'll have an impact on every Rotarian that you come in contact with. When whoever hears you and whoever meets you, you'll have a great impact on them, and it will carry us forward. So thank you so much today, President Yinka. It is my honor to have you on my podcast. It's my honor to serve with you this year, and I hope to meet you in person again and carry on this conversation. But this has been What's Your IQ? Tell us about your impact quotient with Nancy Barbee and my guest, President Yinka. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Nancy. Thank you for the work you are doing for this organization. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your dedication. And I know you are End Polio coordinator. Please, please, please remain motivated. We will finish this job.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you again so much. I hope to have you on the podcast one more time, maybe when you're not so busy, maybe at the end of your year, so we can recap and talk about some wonderful experiences that you had. So thank you again so much.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you.